farming, a means of domesticating birds such as chickens, turkey, ducks, guinea fowls or geese, purposely for meat, feather or eggs production. Chickens are the most reared birds in Uganda, with over 50 million birds raised every year for their delicious meat and eggs. It's estimated that about 30% of the meat consumed in Uganda today is chicken, and the demand keeps increasing every day. Over the years, chicken prices have risen from an average of 7,000 Ugandan shillings to around 10,000 Ugandan shillings for hybrids and 15,000 shillings to 25,000 shillings for local chicken, while the cost of an egg has risen from about 200 shillings to 400 shillings for exotic eggs and about 600 to 800 shillings for local ones in the last 2 years. This makes poultry farming a very lucrative business in Uganda, providing an opportunity for new and existing farmers to cash in on this enterprise. Uganda is said to export about 60% of its egg production to Kenya. However, in the early 2019, Kenya started egg production at a large scale. This caused a price fluctuation and a need for more cost-effective measures to produce the eggs while expanding the market. In our effort to find an efficiently sustainable poultry business model, one particular innovation catches our eyes tonight: the battery cage system of raising layers chickens. Coming up on Seeds of Gold.
I'm a person who takes risks. And to me, everything is an opportunity in Uganda. So when I see an empty space of land, which has been declared by everybody infertile and not arable, to me it's already gold. That's how I dared my first step, and I went ahead and started slowly but surely. There's a bit of pain. Kitwalira ddala obudde mubaamu obulumi naye nga gy'ogenda olabayo, n'olwekyo ababaagala ebyamangu tekiriiyo. Kwata ettaka si ddungi, genda ng'oliteekamu ebintu mpola mpola mpola. So it is a slow but sure way of reaching where we want. And in the course of time you come to mitigate some issues. That's a big risk, scale down, etc, etc. That's how we have managed to make it in the past 5.5 years, coming to 6 years.
Anthony Matega is an insurer by profession. In 1993, Matega ventured into farming with a heifer to produce milk for home consumption. Over time, his appreciation for animal product grew, and so did the venture, from 1 cow to 2 and more, from cows to pigs to chicken. Soon the urban land he occupied was not enough. In 2015, he expanded his territory, bought 40 acres of land in a small town of Bujuko. It's on this village where Matega seized the opportunity for the insatiable market demand of chicken products.
We started this farm 6 years ago. We have a passion for farming. It is a service to our nation through employment and improving whatever we can. I'm a person who takes risks. And to me, everything is an opportunity in Uganda. So when I see an empty space of land, which has been declared by everybody infertile and not arable, to me it's already gold. That's how I dared my first step, and I went ahead and started slowly but surely. I went into a market. I saw that there was a vacuum because of the inconsistencies in the market. I said, well, with the poultry, I can grow from 500 to 1,000, 5,000 plus. And the market is still inexhaustible up to now. So I started on a very small scale, 500 birds. I started with 500 birds, growing them slowly, 500, 700, 1,000, until I made a decision to come to these levels. This particular structure can house 9,800 birds, but our abilities are up to right now 7,000 birds. That's what we can make.
In a space of 5 years, Matega has managed to grow his poultry business from 500 birds to 7,000 birds, producing over 100 trays of eggs every day. He attributes his success to a number of farm practices, from the breed choice, structure, brooding and feeding. This is what he advises on starting and managing battery-caged laying hens. 1. Choosing the right type of chicken to rear.
The bird or the animal you're going to rear is quite very important. You have to have what you want clear. Now in this case for poultry, do you want to go broiler or you want to go layers? Because each has its own advantages and disadvantages. So in our case, we are focusing on the layers. 1, the supply of eggs takes quite some time, unlike in broilers. So you are able to maintain your markets for quite some time. However, you need quite a number, some good capital for the start, because you are going to spend 4.5 months before you get your first egg. You are simply injecting in and you are not putting in anything. Those are issues that we need to look at from the word go. Many people go into something, 2 weeks into the game, he finds that he has some 3.5 months more to go in order to get the first egg. So even mentally, are you prepared? What do we need? Where is going to be your source of the birds in our case? In our case, we get them from Kafika cottages, where they get them from Belgium. The breed is quite very important. I'll give a simple example in our circumstances. A layer bird like this is going to give me between 340 to 352 eggs within its laying time. The same another bird, which we would call our local birds, is going to give you a maximum of 52 eggs in a year. And I'm getting 320, 350 from this side. So where is the economics? Even if I'm to subject that inkoko nganda into the same circumstances and everything, the best it will do, it will get me from 60 eggs and try to reach something like 80. But what is 80 vis-a-vis 300? So the breed matters. You're not going to get our local birds, put them in a cage, feed them expensively the way we do them, and then at the end of the day you get 80 eggs. So to a starting person, it's important to know where is your source of chicks. Of course, we go further, some of us, to know that the farm where the parent stock is free from certain diseases. Otherwise, many farmers have had problems of malax, etc. You bring in the birds, every 2 months they're dying, and at the end of the day it's a loss. Start small, but properly.
2. Structure. Safety and good aeration will be important aspects of your structure for protection of the investment and elimination of toxic fumes that originate from the chicken droppings, something we often find at some chicken houses.
Your structure should be clear and proper. Are they properly aerated? If you look at our structures here, issues of gaseous, ammonia, whatever, you never experience them because they are well aerated and in the proper orientation as recommended. In our case, we are using cages. Others use depleter system. The depleter system is relatively cheap, but it has also its issues. Accountability of birds is very difficult. In the cage system, which we undertook, but of course we started with the depleter, I'm sure of the birds I have at any one moment. Secondly, accountability of birds, rather of the eggs. I know that this particular section of the cage, there are no eggs. Why is it so? Is it in the feeds, which you cannot do when you're in a depleter system? So all those things you have to prepare ahead of before you come into the real game.
3. Brooding. After constructing your poultry house, it's time to bring in the chicks. The first 7 days of these chickens are crucial, for it's when the physiological and developmental process occurs. This requires the utmost attention in terms of warmth and feeding. This is the importance of brooding.
How prepared are you structurally? Now, in terms of structure, we are looking at the housing units. There's a part for the brooding. Is your brooder the best in terms of temperature? Has it got the basics to keep this chick, from the word go, grow healthily? Recall that this chick doesn't have a mother now. So the room has to be the mother in terms of temperature, in terms of feeding, etc. Once the birds are over-congested, they not grow properly. Once they are too loose, when the temperatures are not good enough for warmth, they not be. So those are things that we have to look into.
4. Feeding.
Do you have what it takes to have the birds in? Source of water. Is it clean? It is important. Birds, just like other animals, are supposed to get water ad libitum, at freedom. You are not supposed to limit them. So be sure of your source of water. Be sure of your source of water. When you look at our system, there's no competition for feeds. There's no competition for feeds. Every section is being catered for, ably and without any worry. The water is automatic. That means at any one time the birds will afford. Now, even to emphasize the part for feeds, are we using concentrates or we are outsourcing our local? There are advantages and disadvantages. But I would emphasize why even went for example, concentrates, and why we even would recommend them. In our case, we are using the Kafika or called G's concentrates. We are fully aware of the content within their concentrates. Now, when we do purchase our local products to mix our feeds, today the moon is there, there's no getting mukene. The next day, the lake is very rough, therefore you have no this. You go to where they sell, it is full of sand. But once I go to Coudis, I get their concentrate, I'm sure of the product. And its effect is immediate. Immediate. I'll give an example. I used to use our products, local products, and I'm not maligning anyone. But the best I could ever go was always 72%, 73, fluctuating between 70, 72, 73. I did an experiment with Coudis, concentrate. Within just 2 weeks, I was already at 90%. So I was asking myself where the magic was. And it really worked. And I've never looked back. So even to a starter farmer, I would recommend that other than trying to mess your little capital, use what matters in terms of feeds.
Proper management will top it off to help you understand the venture better, mitigate possible shortcomings, and ensure that you scale up your business. Up next, how to manage the day-to-day running of the farm. After running the poultry business for close to 5 years, Anthony Matega has come to the point where he recommends not to run your farm on a mobile phone. He says it's a practical venture and you ought to manage it physically. You need proper care for the layers to be able to get a consistent supply for quality eggs. This means day-to-day smooth running, disease prevention and control, data and record keeping, among others.
Under management, there's an aspect concerning the personnel that are handling the birds. Integrity is first issue, and it is lacking greatly here in Uganda. Integrity and honesty. You may reach 92%, but when the person who's handling them is taking, I don't know what percentage off daily. Exactly. Secondly, has he got the passion for the birds, or is it just simply fulfilling a duty? So now in management, that is when the day-to-day handling comes into play. I'll give a typical day of the poultry farm here. First issue in the morning, 5:45. Look around the structure. Are there no loopholes for security purposes? Because that's your asset you are looking at. What I left in the night is still intact. Secondly, enter into the unit. Slowly, in big silence, move around to identify any possible sick birds, You are satisfied that everything is fine. 3, ascertain your water levels. Are all your tanks full? Within the first 30 minutes, so much is taking place, planning for the day. It may look routine, but very important. It means that if you have to have the water, the pump is in order, everything is in order, the feeds are in order, etc. Thereafter, you start doing the first feeding. Maintain the routine. If you are feeding the birds at 7, let it be 7 consistently and persistently. Once you start moving 7, then now today, the other day it is 8, then today it is 6:30, the birds lose their own natural programming. So to any farmer who is out there, who's starting up, be consistent, persistent in feeds, in farming, in the routine of feeds, in the water systems, etc. So that is how we would look at it. Health is quite paramount, very paramount, because especially in the layer system, a layer strategy, if you are not in broilers, just one day of ill health costs you quite very, very big. And for the birds to go back to where they were, it's not a question of one day. It may take about 3 weeks. We look into biosafety, and the first issue is with foot bath. We will step into the foot baths because there's already disinfectant within this before we enter, to avoid bacteria and any germs that could have an effect on the birds. Are you taking down the records? Are you seeing the trends? Follow the trends. It's not just a question of being informed. So many trends we have got. Because remember, you are in business, you are in farming for business. So see how the trend is growing from 5% to 10 to 20. When is your peak? If you're not aware of the way the things are moving, especially for telephone farmers, then you're not going to pick anything. How many trays did you get? Okay, how are the birds? You are starting. You're already making losses by virtue of the fact that you are not handling the farm is not in your hands. So it is important that you take into consideration all those key factors. Health is a very important aspect in farming, and general hygiene. What is the surrounding of your poultry unit? Recall, you have several other factors that come in and have an effect on your birds. So ensure that outside your poultry unit, it is clean, properly slashed at any one time. Let it not be a source of problems both to your employee and even to the birds. At given periods, make sure that you disinfect the poultry unit, because germs and bacteria are always roaming around. Some may not be harmful at certain levels, but once intensified, it becomes. So hygiene is quite very important. Hygiene goes into the water part of it. Sometimes farmers take one full year even without making an overall washing of the tanks that are holding the what? And you are wondering, you are treating a particular disease day in, day out, but it is persistent. Whereas the problem lies somewhere else. So given periods, now for us, those who are engaged in cage farming, we have to always, every 2 months, we have to redo and rewash the pipes, because within, possibly there's algae and other issues.
Averagely 20 weeks, the layer birds start laying eggs. How do we then make money out of rearing layers hens?
How do I make money out of this poultry? One, I've already ascertained my numbers. Each bird, from den number 1 to point of laying, shouldn't be taking more than 12,000 shillings from me. 12. I'm picking up 5,000 to buy the chick, one-day-old chick. And the 7,000 is catering for the vaccines, for the feeds, for everything, until the time of laying. At 4.5 months, putting every factor into consideration and proper management, I should be expecting the first egg between the 4.5 months and 5. But 4.5 months, it has always been so. This one particular bird, I'm expecting it with good management, and I've always done it. I've always done it using, of course, the best concentrates of Koji's, Kafika, feeds concentrates. They grow on time. I have the right size and everything. I'm expecting a minimum of 10 trays in a year. 10 trays means 300. But usually, with the Kafika concentrates and everything, we get around between 310 and 340 eggs per bird. So I'm leaving about 25 days within the year of the non-laying. Of course, a bird cannot lay an egg almost daily throughout. So there's that gap of honorary, which is acceptable. I've already reached about 90 to 92%. Even some people reach 97% laying daily. So you start breaking even at between 72 and 75%. Why am I saying between? Because there is always fluctuation in in the prices of feeds. When there's bumper harvest, of course the feeds will be lower, and therefore you break even quickly. But at any one instance, by 75% you should have broken even. Now, I've got 5,000 birds, and I've got 6,000 birds, and I get 90% laying daily, 90%, which comes to 5,400 birds laying every day. If I divide that 5,400 divided by 30, I'm getting something like 125 trays every day. Every day. So I have already got an assured market. And as far as we are concerned, we don't sell any egg at the farm because usually it attracts issues. It is easy to have a tray sneak out without your... So everything is collected from one point and taken to particular points, having done our records. And even if I sell off a tray at 9,500, I'm already getting a profit which can maintain. I've already made the maintenance and a little profit. And to be sincere, in my own case, I've been recouping my profits. That's how I have been able to grow from 1,000. I recoup the profits, I go to 2,000. I recoup the profits, I go to 3,000. So it is worth. Thirdly, it becomes an off-layer. So I have to sell off that bird also. So the off-layer is used to bring in the next batch of. So there's some consistency. That's why it is important that you keep your birds healthy so that you get as many off-layers as possible, because they're going to be the source of the next batch. So it is worth. And the population that is eating the products is growing daily, daily, and daily. If Uganda's population could afford just only 3 eggs in a week, if each person could afford only 3 eggs, the number of birds we have in Uganda are not enough yet. So it is worth, and I would encourage people, but use the right concentrates. To us, that's where the trick is, because it brings the best out of it. Thank you.